haben wir einen guten Platz ausgesucht.
Ja.
So.
Ankommen. I'm here as me, so not as a representative for anyone or any institution or anything. I'm just here as me. So, and I think that's basically also my job. I was born as me, so my job is to become me and not somebody else. So, and yeah, before in German we talked about like, how did I come here? So like, how did I come to this bench in the park in Flensburg in the spring sunshine? So, so like I think, yeah, from childhood on, I was like a person who was not just satisfied with the surface, so to say. I wanted to go deeper. I wanted to find roots. And I wanted to find meaning of life. So, and as a child, you're not an intellectual being, you're a physical being. So I like digging. So like we had a small garden in Hamburg, and I was obsessed with digging holes because I wanted to find dinosaur bones. And I found all kinds of things, and sand and clay, and then I built things out of this clay, and and then I wanted to become an archaeologist, of course. So that was my dream when I was a child. But then also like the intellectual development started, and questions, not only in the, so to say, like where digging helps, like physical digging, but you have to start to dig with your thoughts. And it was always important for me to find meaning. My life had to have meaning. And that was one thing, so like one side. And on the other side was the emotional me that lived in relationships. And even though I grew up in a completely non-religious family, I always had the inner certainty that there was a you, a transcendental you, a person looking out for me. Like even like God as parents. So something like, and I started praying by myself. So, and I felt safe in this relationship. It was very important for me, and I didn't have really a name for it. So it was more or less fluid because there was no Christian background, no background at all. So, but that was quite good because I could experiment and find my own way. So we have these two things, like one part of me that was sort of very sure that there is this relationship, but then this developing mind that really wanted to go to the roots and find out things. So I studied philosophy and ancient Indology because I wanted to learn Sanskrit, because to me it seemed that the wisdom of the world was in Sanskrit, and I didn't want it to be dependent on others to interpret it for me. So, I mean, I was not against learning from teachers, so because I value experience, and if you want to learn an instrument, you go to a master who plays that instrument, and you learn from the master. And even if at some point you yourself become a master, then you can improvise. But first you stick, so to say, to the school your master is in. So nothing against that, but I always wanted to be a mature student, not someone who hands over heart and brain and what I do to some other person. So therefore, for my own independence and for the ability to build my own judgment, I needed to learn the language. So that was very important and very helpful. So, and I mean, in India you have these, so to say, two directions. It's one school is everything is one. It's called Advaita Vedanta. And then you have another extreme says Advaita, everything is separate. And then you have one very special school, and I like it because it says it's in between. Dvaita, Advaita. So, and I loved that. When I discovered that school, I thought, that's life. Life is not this box or that box, either or. Life is oscillating. Yeah? Life is in between. It happens in between. It's dynamic. It's living. And it was very difficult for me because as a philosopher, I was used to box things into concepts. So, but I accepted the challenge. And I love it. I mean, it's constantly challenging me, but also leading me further on.
I would like you to give maybe your point of view about this topic called spirituality. What does that mean?
Yeah, I think it's a harmful concept because it gives you the idea that there's spirit and there's matter and you have to choose. And that's so stupid. And I mean, I think that all suffering comes from splitting up organic things that are meant to work together. So, and if you talk about you need to live a spiritual life, you're a spiritual soul, this can lead to a split personality. So where you have this spiritual life and then you have this so-called material life and you develop two personalities and the one can't accept the other and the other can't understand the other side. So like you are like two persons. And then it can happen that you suppress very natural human urges and that this comes out as self-abuse or abusing others. So, and I think it's very dangerous to walk this path where you have this, either you live a spiritual life or you live a material life. So, therefore, I'm against this concept. I would say this concept is very dangerous to work with it. So, and what I said in the beginning, so I was born me, and this is what I'm supposed to become. And I'm everything.
Little quick question in between. You have to become you? Aren't you already you?
Yeah, we have these beautiful trees behind us. And in the seed, you have the whole tree. But still, there's a long way to become such big.
Okay. So we have to add some time, yes?
Yeah, we have to give space. I wouldn't say we have to do anything. It's more about trusting that what you are is exactly what you're supposed to be. And first, accepting it. And then, like the tree is always ready to receive. It is ready to receive sunshine. It is ready to receive water, nurturing water. It is ready to receive the storm and to lose some branches too. And maybe when you're 50, you are not straight anymore, but a little bit like this, so because the wind is always coming from the west in Flensburg. So, but happiness, I would suggest simple human happiness of a living being is going with life. And the moment you go against it and you cut away what makes you happy, you cut away what makes you unhappy because you think you're not supposed to be unhappy because you are a spiritual soul and you always have to be in bliss. The moment you cut away what the package you are, so to say, what you were delivered like in this way. So at the moment you cut something away, that's where suffering starts, real suffering. And when you go against the flow of life, of growing and of decaying, of aging, everything, of dying eventually, the more you withstand the flow, the more painful it will be. So, we have this one aspect, so like trusting that life carries you through life and through death, eventually, of course. So, and we were carried into life by life. So we are being carried. We can trust. So that's one main thing. And the other thing, we are not alone. So we are connected. And another aspect of pain and suffering is when you are disconnected. And the first thing is when you are disconnected with yourself. So in ourself we have different layers. Disconnected if what we are doing is disconnected with what we are feeling, and what we are thinking is disconnected with what we are doing or speaking or feeling. So this is the source of pain. And then there's another level that is maybe not so well known, is that there is also a spiritual self. Now I take this word spiritual, but it's not disconnected from the rest. So we are spiritual self, and as long as we feel that mind, body, feeling, thinking is disconnected from the spiritual self, we suffer. And we also suffer when the spiritual self believes itself to be the mind, the body, and thinking, because then it completely goes against its grain, because it knows I am eternal, I am full of joy, and I am knowledge and consciousness. And then it sees everything, body, mind, feelings, going downhill. That can't be. And then that's also a great source of pain. So, and therefore, I would say, like, it's most important to interconnect with yourself, your spiritual self, your body, your mind, your heart, everything. So to be like a loving parent, embrace your body, embrace your feelings, embrace your thoughts, but also be loving to your atma, your spiritual self. Don't let it sit there alone and believe it would die. It won't. But this little spark of consciousness, you have to also, like the tree, you have to nourish it so that it grows. And then it will grow from inside out. And then you will be organic, connected from inside out. And your life will be an expression of this spiritual self. And that's an organic way to do it. So, I know there are different approaches, and I respect it, because we are all different. Some say just first, like, do things on the outside, and then by the time it will become an inner habit. That's also a way to do it. But for myself, I found out I had to go from inside out, not from outside in.
Well, many people recommend that.
Yes.
They don't even say from inside out, but go inside. No, that's
not out again.
That's what they recommend. Yeah.
Yeah. So life is happening on this meadow. Wonderful.
Yes. A lot of energy. Young people, so much expression.
Yeah, it's spring.
Yeah, it's springtime.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
I would like to ask about those two obstacles that many people encounter, which is desire and fear.
Yeah, it depends. If you desire things in order to keep them, that's painful. And if you fear things because you believe they will stick with you, that's kind of stupid, because everything in life changes. So desire to keep or fear that something might permanently damage you, it's both not life. So I think it's both kind of an illusion. So, and I mean, I was hesitating a bit because you can also desire to live authentically. But that's a desire that doesn't want to have, own, or keep something, but it is a desire to live with the flow of life. Why not? That kind of desire I think I can identify with.
Your development as a person is like built on knowledge or on devotion? I heard some devotion when you said you were start praying on your own. This is kind of, you know there's something you can talk to, which is untouchable, and but you also were digging the holes into knowledge.
Oh, well, that's no opposition. Not at all. When I was young, I thought it was an opposition. I also thought it was either or. So either Advaita Vedanta or Bhakti Yoga, so to say, or Jesus Christ or whatever. That's also a relationship. So, but I think it's not either or at all, because I think in the beginning there is relationship. So it sounds like the Bible, but I mean, so
No, in the beginning was the word.
yeah, genau.
That's how they started, right?
No, well, but
I don't know much, but I mean, I think I remember that one.
Yeah, there are many things. But what I wanted to say is that if you feel there is another one who lovingly looks upon you, in the beginning it is the mother, if you are lucky. So there's also unlucky lives, but usually it's the mother that looks upon you with love. And that's a very important basis for developing trust. I think, I'm not a psychologist, so, but later on, because you are not just a physical being, you are a spiritual soul, you might feel, maybe, if there's a background story from former lives, I don't know, you have this tendency to reach out. And when there's something comes back, it's not just me thinking something up, so something develops, a relationship. So, and then you want to know about that other person. So, what you call devotion, I would say, is more like the desire to get to know better the person who loves you and whom you want to love back. And how can you love another person if you don't know that person? So you want to make that person happy. You ask yourself, how? But what does he or she like? So, and in the beginning, you have a whole list. You can also have, like in Bhakti Yoga, a whole list. Do these 64 things, or and that makes God happy. And you think, oh my goodness, that's a lot. And the day is short, and I'm living in Europe, in Flensburg, and I have my day-to-day work. Impossible. So, yeah. So, and for me, at some point, I reached a point that I realized the best present I can give to God is me. I mean, I'm not so big that I'm a great present. So, but I mean,
we can package it.
Yeah, genau. Yeah, you have a nice shawl.
We can make it look nice or something. Genau. We can try.
Yeah. So actually, I don't have anything else, and because everything belongs to God already. So everything I can give is my attentiveness, my being awake in his or her presence, being ready to receive and to pass on. So, because I'm here not just as become the perfect Katrin, but also Katrin can be, and I'm happy with her, so to say. She lives her life and she has her habits and her personality, which is not always very easy for others to handle. I know it, I try to improve, so that's the one thing. But I'm also Atma and spiritual soul, and from this inside out, I am connected with the source. Yeah, like as a reference to your podcast here. So and I think that as much as I am supposed to become Katrin, I am supposed to become transparent. So, not impersonal. I am a person, and also as spiritual soul, I am a person, because relationship is between persons. If there is no person, if there is no you, you have static consciousness, which is also a state of self-realization, or so this is also there, but there are also dynamic ways to live this kind of consciousness, and these kind of dynamic states are relationships. So one thing is you can be connected, that's static, but you become alive in a relationship. And then things get really interesting, because another you always surprises you. And that's the fun thing if you enter into a relationship with God. He can surprise you. And
no limits on that one.
yeah. And then sometimes you think, oh no, I want to hold on to how things were. But then you say, okay, let's play.
Many people, they have relationships, like they fall in love, and so they want to know the other person, and when they find out more about the other person, they decide to split up again.
Yeah.
So that must be slightly different when it comes to this topic, like getting to know God or Source.
I'm very happy God has never decided to split up with me, even though I split up with him for some periods of life. Especially when I was in love, because then I didn't need him anymore.
He was too close, you couldn't see him.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I love to throw that word around, and love is everywhere, and love became quite commercial. And so many people might not really understand what love actually could be, or the potential of love, and unconditional love, what that means.
That's something we can receive, we cannot give it. So we can receive it, it can pass through us. We can be ready to receive it and be open to it, to accept it, which is difficult. If you think you are completely undeserving, and you are also, it's not just that you think. So, but as a human being, to impose this burden upon yourself to love like God will break you and will blow up your ego into such an amount that you will explode, and then you will fall. Yeah, it's like a
bubble.
Yeah, like a balloon.
On the ocean.
Yeah, don't do it.
Yeah.
But always be ready to receive. And yeah.
So we can accept love to be expressed toward us.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, and I mean, it enlivens everything.
Let's go to something a little bit more esoteric. There's many people, they are like completely convinced you only live once. There is no reincarnation. What is your take on this idea?
I don't remember my former life, and I don't know where I'm going to go. And actually, no person I know went there and came back. So I will not speculate. So I stick with what I know, and I know that life carried me into this life, and I know that life will carry me through death. And I also know that relationships are eternal. Because for sure, because as a child in a completely non-religious family, I immediately had the impulse to connect with God. So, and in the run of my life, I met people which I knew with certainty we belong together. We are of the same family, so to say, of the same spiritual family.
Well,
and this will carry on. I mean, I imagine it like spiritual relationships are beyond time and space. So it's like, maybe you can say it's like a network, like a living, dynamic network of relationships. So, and where also roles can change. So, and this will carry, I am very, very sure that this will carry me through death and to whatever place I'm supposed to be, in whatever form. I don't, I accept.
well, no one ever died and came back to tell us, yes, I was really dead. But there had been a certain amount of people, they kind of physically died, like you have proof, you know, you look on a screen and there's no more heartbeat, and there's the medical department there, and they testify, yeah, this person is dead. And then they come back and then they start to tell stories. Did you ever hear some of that stuff?
Yeah, but I don't, it's their story, not my story.
Okay, so you, yeah, okay, but well, sometimes we like to trust people, those tell us things. And maybe you can tell me something about you connected with some master or guru, or what's it? You mentioned that in the German, in that part. So can you, is it beneficial? Can you tell us something about that, or?
Beneficial for what?
For what? Yeah, for people like to, sometimes people, they are looking for answers, and we can buy a book, or we can think of ourselves, we know everything already, or we can study any kind of thing, and sometimes we can connect with other beings. Those can be our master.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I connected with a person, he had already left his body in 1977, so I never met him in person. He was he studied not history, Religionswissenschaften.
Science of religion.
Yeah, religious science, comparative religion studies, so to say, and Indology.
Ooh, it gets complicated.
Yeah, and he, from Saxony, so Sächsisch.
All right.
So he was German, and he was a brilliant student, very talented, and his name was Ernst Georg Schulze. So
that's quite German.
Couldn't get any more German. And he studied in the 20s and the 30s of 1920s, 1930s, and he had a very special childhood. Like, his mother read to him from a very important Indian book. It's called the Bhagavata Purana, that was translated into French. So, and she read it to him in French when he was a small child, and it is a highly spiritual, metaphysical, theological book. So to have such a mother read something to a little boy in French, so it was a special mother and a special son. So he studied. He also felt the need to study these old Indian texts and learn these languages to understand these texts by himself. So in those times in Berlin, for example, Buddhism was very popular in the 20s. So first he connected with Buddhism, because that was the closest things to do. So he also wrote a dissertation about the Heart Sutra, and so he was in that context. And then there was a missionary from India, from the Bhakti movement. And Bhakti means that you are absolutely convinced that the meaning of life is to serve God for his happiness. So this is called pure bhakti. Bhakti can be a helper on many paths, but this is a very special movement, so to say, which focuses on pure bhakti. And he was invited to the Humboldt University, and they invited him to speak. And like Ernst Georg Schulze was like struck by lightning, and that's it. Yeah, that's where I belong. So he had this absolute clarity. This is my path. So, and he then he went to India and lived in India for about 30 years. So, and became a disciple of the leader of this Gaudiya Vaishnava movement, where bhakti, pure bhakti, is central and is directed to Krishna and his Shakti Radha. So that is the context. His name was then Sadananda, always joyful, because he was always, despite all the very difficult circumstances for a single European white disciple of this thousands of Indian disciples and the country and everything, it was not normal that Germans became disciples of Indian gurus. In those days there were very few. So sometimes he was very lonely. But despite all the obstacles, he was full of joy from inside out. And he started to translate all these texts into German, which is an incredible treasure, because he also had studied it. He knew how to do it. So he combined like German scholarship with Indian lived spirituality. And so when during the Second World War he was kept in a prisoner of war camp by the British because he was German, and there he met an Austrian poet and writer, Walter Eitlitz, who became his disciple. And in this combination, this was a very, very a great meeting, because later on Sadananda sent his translations to Walter Eitlitz, who after the war went to Sweden with his family, and Walter Eitlitz made books out of it. And I came into contact with one of these books, The Life of Chaitanya, the teachings in the life of Chaitanya. And then I was 19 when I read that book through a friend, and it had the same effect probably like when Sadananda met this Indian missionary in Berlin. It struck me like lightning, and I knew my life was over. I was so angry. I mean, when you're a girl of 19, 20 years, you have views about
so much options,
desires and what you want to become, and suddenly it all goes up in smoke and becomes completely nonsensical. That's why I had a hard time, like between 20 and the end of 20. I was really fighting. But I mean, I knew I belonged. I knew with such certainty, no question about it. So I tried other things. I tried Christianity. I even got baptized. I thought there has to be something in my culture, and I checked out the Hare Krishnas because they are sort of in the same tradition, but they are quite special in their approach and very much into like also adopting all these practical things. I couldn't do it. And I have the highest respect for everyone who can live it in this way. But I couldn't. Maybe my path was to come at terms with my own inabilities and with my own failing. And like now I'm over 50, so I more and more I come to, like I was ground like corn, and now I become softer and softer and more accepting and more loving, but it was a very hard path. But I mean, there was always throughout all this, I got to know my spiritual siblings, so to say, who were also disciples of Sadananda, and they are always there, and the family grew also, and I am carried by them, and I contribute to them and try to do my part, and hopefully I'm also sometimes helpful for them. So that would make me very happy. Because, and I hope that we will always stay together and serve wherever we are meant to be. And that's my happiness.
I like that story very much, because we want stuff in life, and then eventually if someone shows up in our face what we actually need, we kind of reject it. We're like, no, this is ugly, I don't want to know. What are you telling me? You know, like when the truth comes into your face, sometimes it's very hard to digest it. You get even maybe angry.
Yes,
because it destroys you.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, but it was like a good distraction.
So the first reaction is kind of, this is not true.
No, it is true.
But you know it.
Yeah, the reaction was, I know it is absolutely true, but I don't want it.
I want something else, and now you come with this?
Yeah, it was, I mean...
So how is there like a special, you need so and so much time, or how's the process to recognize how that it is that?
You know.
You know from the beginning.
Yeah, and that's why I stuck with it all my life, despite being painful sometimes.
Up till today.
Yes, every day more and more, I hope. I do my best.
No, I mean also the painful part keeps coming once in a while, or?
Yeah, no, but I mean because I am able to be more accepting, and I'm trusting more that in the guidance of God in my life. And I'm more and more ready to receive whatever is given to me, even if it's death or pain or sickness. And I think this is, I hope I will still get better because dying is not so easy. So
we don't know that.
No,
Some people, I heard a story of an old elderly woman that lived over here in the northern part, and she was kind of active and she still made her breakfast, and she was around 90 or something, but she still could move and make her breakfast. And then this one morning she just fell on her breakfast table, and there she was dead. So there are these
many ways.
Yeah, some people, they die in their sleep, you know. And yeah, so we don't know, but it's nice if we can handle some pain and some suffering, like when it comes to us, and maybe change our perspective on it. Is that possible?
My mother is very severely sick since 10 years, and the last year she almost died twice, so she was twice more or less on the other side. So, and going with her on this very painful and for her very difficult path taught me a lot. So, and I constantly live with pain, with the pain of, not physical pain, but in the beginning, the pain of seeing this beautiful, strong woman wither away too early. So, and then there was the pain of letting go, or knowing that also a part of me will die with her. So, and what carries me through it is actually trusting her to life, to carry her. So really letting her go. I mean, in India there's this beautiful festival when you have these small bowls of light, or they can float, and you set them onto the nightly rivers. So This festival is called Diwali. And then you trust that the flow of the river will carry the little boat with a light wherever it is supposed to go. And that image really helped me to let her go and also to trust her, that she knows how she has to die. And that it is not my job to do anything. I just have to be with her. And in the beginning, I always thought I had to do things, and then I did too much, and I didn't really listen to her, and I didn't listen to myself. I didn't feel myself because I was acting too much. So I had all this, what I explained in the beginning. Everything was disconnected. Now through these almost dying experiences of her and me sitting beside her and going through the process with her again and again.
Like practicing to die,
Yeah,
my God,
yeah.
help.
I mean, I accept it as a gift, and I hope that I have become a better companion for her. In the beginning, I was not such a good companion.
Oh, yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm not the good
Yeah.
son. I'm not what was expected of me. Who was ever? I mean, that's
We came as a surprise.
Yeah, and of course, yeah. You too? Oh my God. No. So we.
No, I don't. But I think
It's always a surprise.
Even if you plan it, you never know what you get.
All right, yeah, there you go. That's true. Oh my God, yeah, I know some stories. Yeah, that's absolutely true. So we get what we need, I guess, not what we want.
Life throws things at us. we can only decide how to respond. I mean, that's like a fortune cookie wisdom, but anyway.
Sometimes a little cookie is just the right thing to ingest.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you look at water, you can learn a lot from water. And it's quite a simple thing. When you look at it, you can say, it's just water. But then if you dig deeper, if you dig some holes in the ground, you might find some dinosaur bones in there.
Or you will end up at the other side of the earth and there will be the sky again. Surprise. I think the most important thing is really to be able to live with yourself. So, and lovingly, not just tolerating it, but lovingly. So, and it helps if you know that you are always and already loved and don't have to do any contortions to be loved by God, because He sees your Atma as it is, and her love will invigorate this Atma, the spiritual self, if you just open up. And then you will grow from inside out, and your whole being, your whole human personality, in an organic way, you will be able to serve by what you are. You don't have to do any lists, like check this box. Just service is, you don't have to ask, how can I serve? You only have to ask, I am your servant. Let me do what I can best for you. So maybe like this. Was a pleasure.